Welcome back to my class in Business Mathematics or Mathematics Self-Investment. In the last lesson, we introduced another type of interest rate, the compound interest rate. For today, we will take more examples in calculating the accumulated value and the amount of interest at compound interest rate. For our first example, consider the following problem. A man invests 175,000 pesos for 3.5 years at 5 2/3% compounded quarterly. Find the accumulated value and interest on investment. The amount of investment, 175,000 pesos, is the principal, denoted by capital P. And before proceeding with the solution of the problem, you write the given information and you start with 175,000 pesos, denoted by P for principal. This principal of 175,000 pesos was invested for 3.5 years. So this is the time in years, 3.5 years, and it's denoted by small letter T. And we convert this to decimal number. 1/2 is 1 divided by 2 is 0.5 plus the whole number 3 is 3.5 years. The original amount of 175,000 pesos invested for 3.5 years, it was invested at this interest rate. And this word compounded indicates that this interest rate is a compound interest rate. And this is denoted by J, the compound interest rate, 5 2/3%. And in computing the accumulated value and the amount of interest, the interest rate must always be in decimal number. So we convert 5 2/3% to decimal number. First, you divide 2 by 3 and then you add 5. 2 divided by 3 is a non-repeating, non-terminating decimal number, 0.66666. 6 is repeated without n. And to that decimal number, in your calculator, you add 5. And you will get 5.666. Do not erase your answer in your calculator. And this 5 2/3% is 5.666%. And to convert that to decimal number, divide 5.66666 by 100. And you get 0.05. 0.056666. 6 is repeated without n. Or you may simply write you may simply write 5 2/3% is equal to 0.056 bar. The bar on top of 6 means that the digit 6 is repeated without n. And when you enter this in your calculator, you press 6 without n. You press 6 repeatedly. And the problem says this compound interest rate of 5 and 2/3% is compounded quarterly, which means that the interest will be computed quarterly. That means 4 times a year, every 3 months. Hence, for this given compound interest rate, compounded quarterly, M is equal to 4. M is the number of conversion periods, the number of times that interest will be computed in 1 year. And for this particular problem, the interest will be computed 4 times a year, every 3 months. Find the accumulated value and interest on investment. We also write the required. We are required to find the accumulated value of the original principal of 175,000 pesos invested for 3.5 years or 3.5 years at 5 and 2/3% compound interest rate compounded quarterly. And we are asked also to find the amount of interest earned by the investment of 175,000 pesos. To find the accumulated value of 175 pesos, we use the following formula. The accumulated value of the principal P at compound interest rate is denoted by A and is given by P times quantity 1 plus I to the power N, where N is the number of conversion periods, 40 years, and N is given by the following formula. N is equal to M multiplied by P, where M is 4, and our time is 3.5 years. Multiply 3.5 by 4, and you should get 14. Now, small letter I is the interest rate per conversion period. And small I is given by the following formula. The interest rate per conversion period is the compound interest rate per year. J divided by the number of conversion periods per year. Our J decimal number is 0.056666. I simply write 6 bar divided by 4. We divide 0.056 by 4. In your calculator, you press 0.05 and you press 6 repeatedly and divide that by 4. And you should get 0.0141, 0.01, you should get 0.01416666. Again, the digit 6 is repeated without N, but I simply write 6 bar, which means that 6 is repeated repeatedly without N. But when you enter this in your calculator, you press 6 many times. Now we are ready to compute the accumulated value of 175,000 pesos. A equals P, and P is 175,000 pesos. Multiply by quantity, open parenthesis, 1 plus I. I is 0.01. 6 repeatedly to the power n. N is 14. And use your calculator to calculate this quantity. We have 175,000 pesos. Times open parenthesis, you press open parenthesis in your calculator. 1 plus 0.0141, you press 6 many times, repeatedly. And then close parenthesis to the power 14. And you should get 213,000 92 you should get this answer 213,092.7623,474,2267. Now we round up the final answer to 2 decimal places, and the digit to be rounded up is the third digit from the decimal point. From the decimal point you count 3, 1, 2, 3. The digit to be rounded up is 2. But 2 is less than 5, so we simply drop 2 and all the digits to its right. And the final answer should be 213,092.76 pesos. Thus, at the end of 3.5 years, 175,000 pesos will accumulate to 213,092.76 pesos. This amount includes the amount of interest earned by the investment of 175,000 pesos at 5 2/3% compounded quarterly. Next, we find the interest on investment, denoted by capital I. You recall that accumulated value is equal to the sum of the principal and the interest. But at compound interest rate, I mentioned before in the past lesson that it's not possible to calculate first for the amount of interest. You have to calculate first for the accumulated value of the principal, and using this equation, you find the amount of interest I. To find the amount of interest capital I, we transpose P to the left-hand side. At the right-hand side, we have I. Amount of interest equals A, accumulated value. and transpose P to the left. We take the opposite side of P from positive, it becomes negative. To find the amount of interest at compound interest rate, we make use of this formula. Amount of interest equals accumulated value, 213,092.76 pesos, minus the principal of 175,000 pesos. Thus, and we get the difference of these two using calculator. $230,092.76 minus 175,000 pesos. And you should get 38,092.76. Thus, the interest earned by the investment of 175,000 pesos at the end of 3.5 years or 3.5 years at compound interest rate of 5 2/3% compounded quarterly is 38,092.76 pesos. For our example 2, consider the following problem. What is the interest earned on investment of 9,725 pesos at the end of 12 years? If interest rate is 2 1/4% compounded monthly. The question is, what is the interest earned? And so we are asked to find the amount of interest, capital I. The required for this problem is to find the interest earned denoted by capital I, or the amount of interest earned on the investment of 9,725 pesos. This amount of investment is the principal denoted by capital P. Capital P is the principal of 9,725 pesos. And we are asked to find the interest earned at the end of 12 years. And that is our time T. At the rate of 2 1/4% compounded monthly. The problem specifies that this interest rate is compounded monthly, which means that the interest will be computed 12 times a year or every month at the rate of 2 1/4% per year. 2 1/4% is our J, the compound interest rate. J, the compound interest rate is 2 1/4%. But when we substitute this in the formula, we always convert the interest rate in decimal number. 1 divided by 4 is 0.25 plus 2, that's 2.25%. And you divide 2.25 by 100 in your calculator, and you should get 0.225. 0.0225. Again, we convert 2 1/4% to decimal number. First, you divide 1 by 4. 1 divided by 4 is 0.25. And you add 2, you get 2.25%. 1 and 1/4 is 2.25%. And in your calculator, you divide 2.25 by 100 to convert to decimal. 2.25 divided by 100 is 0.0225. Hence, the compound interest rate of 2.14% in decimal number is 0.0225. And this interest rate of 2.14% is compounded monthly, which means that, as I said earlier, the interest will be computed 12 times a year. Hence, our M is 12. The interest rate will be computed 12 times a year. That is every month or monthly. As I said earlier, and in the past lesson, at compound interest rate, it is not possible to compute directly for the amount of interest. You have to first compute the accumulated value of the principal. And the accumulated value is given by the accumulated value at compound interest rate is computed by using this formula. Accumulated value is denoted by A, and it is given by P times quantity 1 plus I to the power M, where the principal P is 9,725 pesos. Small I is the interest rate per month or per conversion period. What we are given is the interest rate per year, 2.14%, that's per year. So we compute the interest rate per month because the interest will be computed monthly. Small I is given by the formula J divided by M, where J in decimal number is 0.0225. Divide by M, M is 12. And we compute that using our calculator. We have 0.0225. And divide that by 12. And do not round off yet because we will only round off in the final answer. And you should get 0.001875. Again, small I is 0.0225 divided by 12, and you should get 0.001875. Now we are ready to compute the accumulated value of the principal of 9,725 pesos. We have A equals the principal 9,725 times quantity 1 plus I. Take all the decimal numbers, do not round off yet. 0.001875 to the power N. And we have to compute N, the total number of interest conversion periods for 12 years. And N is given by M multiplied by T. M is the number of conversion periods per year. For T years, the total number of conversion periods is given by N. Multiply the number of conversion periods per year times the number of years. M is 12 and P is 12. And you should get 144. N is 144. Let us check. We have 12 times 12. 144. So the exponent here is 144. Now compute this quantity in your calculator. We have 9,725. Multiply, you write open parenthesis 1 plus 0.001875 close parenthesis and raise to the power 144. And you should get 12,736. Using your calculator, 9725 times quantity 1 plus 0.001875 to the power 144, you should get 12,736.184,053 9075837. And we now round this up to 2 decimal places for our final answer. Again, the third digit from the decimal point is to be rounded up. So from the decimal point, you count 3. 1, 2, 3. The number to be rounded up is 4. But 4 is less than 5. So we simply drop 4 and all the digits to its right. And our final answer should be 12,736.18 pesos. But this is not the required in the problem. The required is the interest earned, denoted by capital I. And we compute capital I, we find capital I from the following formula. The accumulated value is the sum of the principal and the amount of interest. And from this equation, we solve for I by transposing P to the left-hand side. At the right-hand side, we have I equals A. And we transpose P to the other side. We take the opposite sign of P. From positive, it becomes negative. And I equals accumulated value 12,736. .18 minus the principal of 9,725. And we compute the difference using our calculator. 12,736.18 minus 9,725. And you should get 3,011.18. This is the required amount of interest earned 3,011.18 pesos. Hence, at the end of 12 years, the investment of original amount invested of 9,725 pesos, invested at 2.1% compounded monthly, will earn an interest of 3,011.18 pesos at the end of 12 years. For your practice, please try the following exercises. Number 1, Nina invest 95,000 pesos at 4 3/5% compounded semi-annually for 3 years. Find the accumulated value and interest on investment. The given interest rate 4 3/5% is a compound interest rate, and the problem says this rate is compounded semi-annually, which means that interest will be computed twice a year. That is, your M equals 2, and the interest will be computed every 6 months for 3 years. In number 1, you are required to find the accumulated value A and the amount of interest capital I. Number 2, Natalie deposits 12,000 pesos in a savings account that pays 2% interest compounded quarterly. What is the interest earned after 10 years? In number 2, you are only required to find the interest earned, that is the amount of interest denoted by capital I, after 10 years. But again, at compound interest rate, you cannot directly solve for the amount of interest capital I. You have to first calculate the accumulated value capital A. And the given interest rate is 2% compounded quarterly, which means that 2% is a compound interest rate, and compounded quarterly means that interest will be computed 4 times a year. That is, your M equals 4, and the interest will be computed every 3 months in 1 year. That is 4 times a year. And the original amount invested or the original amount deposited is 12,000 pesos. You are asked to find the amount of interest earned by 12,000 pesos after 10 years. Compound interest rate of 2% compounded quarterly, or interest is computed 4 times a year. For you to be able to check your answers, I give you the answers for number 1. Accumulated value of 95,000 pesos is 108,887.34 pesos. And interest on investment of 95,000 pesos is 13,887.34 pesos. For number 2, the interest earned by the deposit of 12,000 pesos after 10 years is 2,649.53 pesos. In the next lesson, we will solve problems where the unknown is the compound interest rate. If you have question about the lesson today, you ask your question in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Art Calison, the channel of learning and leisure. Or you may ask your friends and classmates to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Art Calison, so they may learn as well. Thank you for joining me in my class today.